Well, hello again. Thanks everybody for joining me for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. I do these every week. Been doing them for 4 years now. Thanks for joining me. So we're doing the new releases September 27th, 2024. If I seem a little discombobulated, it's because there's work going on at my house right now. So I'm just trying to hold it together here, people. All right, so I got a lot to get to today, a fair amount. Next week, though, you're going to have to reserve extra time because October 4th is a big new release week. I have a feeling that there's some kind of conspiracy going on at the labels to try and turn October into some kind of extra holiday month, or at least October 4th seems like to be a big week. So let me get to today's new releases, then I'll give you updates on some things. So, all right, so first new release, I usually do box sets first. This box set is a little specific, so I know it's not for everybody, but I'm just going to show it here briefly. NOS, and it's a box set for Illmatic. And what it is it's 6 7-inch vinyls. Can I say vinyls? 6 7-inch vinyl, 45 small records, including bonus remixes and liner notes. The full album is spread across all of those, so they're going to sound good, but you're going to do a lot of flipping. This is a very limited thing, around $145, so it's not cheap, but hip-hop fans, if you're collectors, you might be interested in that. You're going to have to let me know because those will be order on demand. All right, big new release week, release this week, the biggest probably, the new Billy Strings record, and this is called Highway Prayers. This is an exclusive 2 LP set on evergreen and clear color in color vinyl. So it's a clear vinyl with green and evergreen sort of in the middle. Very pretty. I've seen sort of schematics online. There's the back. It's a double album. There's quite a few songs actually. Looks like 20 songs, so he's been saving up a little bit. The license plate on the car says Highway Perez. It's also embossed. It's not cheap. We're pushing 50 bucks here, people. I think it's because of the special color vinyl that they're doing for it. I think that you probably saw my, if you saw last week, you saw me comment on the pricing of vinyl and stuff like that. And, well, you know, the collectability and, you know, what people are sort of saying about, you know, is it worth collecting it anymore? If you really want to see something about that, go back and watch that. I think some of those people that were kind of poo-pooing collecting vinyl last week were kind of feeling the backlash and have since sort of like reneged on some of those statements, or softened them a little bit, I should say. So whatever, everybody's got a different opinion at a different point in time, so go figure. The Lumineers, this is another live record. I think it might be their first live record, live from Wrigley Field. They're playing Wrigley Field. They're that big. This is a triple album set, so it's got a lot of stuff. There's a track with James Bay who comes on and adds to the proceedings. His new record comes out next week. So anyway, 380-gram records. It's heavy. It's not cheap also. Also in the $50+ range. So, all right. You got to be real fans of these bands to plunk down the cash. J.D. McPherson, this guy's great. He keeps putting out one good record after another. I love his Christmas album, Socks, if you haven't heard that. Gotta hear it. Night Owls is his new album. He sort of employs a little bit of that sort of retro rock, rockabilly, and then singer-songwritery, but very good. This includes an autographed archival print of the cover, limited edition splatter vinyl one-time pressing. This is like, I think, the indie version, featuring the hit single Sunshine Getaway. I hope it's a hit single. One of the great classic-minded rock and roll singer-songwriters of the modern age, says Variety. And there's a kind of a picture of him sort of in dark blue on the back. 10 tracks. One features Bloodshot Bill. Don't know who that is, actually. Another record that came out on CD about a month ago. We're finally getting the vinyl. Devin Allman's new record, child of Allman brother, Greg Allman. Miami Moon. And, yeah, this is Devin taking a little bit of a break from the Allman Betts band a little bit here. And, yeah, produced by Tom Hambridge and Devin Allman. So, finally out on vinyl. I've heard it was I haven't listened to that record, but people said it's actually got some funk and soul kind of stuff influence there. New Sunflower Bean record. They keep cranking them out. This one's called Shake, and you get the cover there. I don't know if this is an EP as such, because there's really only, looks like 5 tracks. But yeah, I think those records are sort of import. I'm not really sure. Sunflower Beans seem to kind of start taking off in the US, and then they kind of backed off. So, well, there's 5 tracks on this. Then the new Atlas Genius record, and I think this was maybe supposed to come out last week, but didn't show up until the other day. This has 10 tracks, and it's $5 cheaper than the Sunflower Bean. So, you know, you can figure, you never know what these are going to be priced at or why. I like this cover. Atlas Genius always have really cool cover art. So yeah, it's been maybe 4 or 5 years since I saw anything from them. This is one that I've really been sort of looking forward to in kind of a, I suppose, a little bit of a melancholy way. But it's the new Alan Sparhawk, and it's called White Roses, My God. This cover does not show up very well, but you, I don't know if I can get there close. You can see maybe the lettering of his name is slightly embossed in the title. And his image here is sort of in kind of purple, but it's very hard to see. And this is the limited edition first time pressing on color vinyl. This is he was the one of the lead singers of, well, there were only really 2 of the band Low, and Mimi from Low, his wife, unfortunately she passed away about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, 1.5 years. From cancer, and what a beautiful voice she had. And they're, I guess, I hate the term, like when people try to peg people, but slowcore was sort of the name given to them, but very like calm and sort of dark were their songs for a long time. Things We Lost in the Fire was one of their big albums back in the 90s. I say big, I mean on the indie scene. But they never really had a big like commercial hit. Their last 2 records they did before Mimi passed, they were working with B.J. Burton, who had done a fair amount of work with Bon Iver, and those albums are just incredible sonic masterpieces. They are not typical faint of heart type records. They're not easily digestible. They're not easy to approach. The songs are beautiful, but they're so buried in layers of effects, and that's sort of the intention of them, is to kind of tweak them in using electronics and things. Not dance beats, but electronics. They're very interesting records. I heard the first single from this, and I thought, I'm not so sure, because there's this effect on his voice that makes him sound sort of like Minnie Mouse. But maybe that's, I'll get more when I hear the actual project. But it's such a shame that she passed away, because I feel like they were finally getting some real, they've always gotten praise by the press, but some real attention from people who sort of are always listening for like, what's the best thing I've heard lately or whatever. Sophie is another one that is sort of unfortunately no longer with us. Sophie was a transgender DJ producer who worked a fair bit with like Charlie XCX and but was very creative and kind of pushed the boundaries of electronic music. You know, faster, or very just, you know, tweaked out, kind of in sort of like some of the FKA Twigs sounding records. Sort of like a creativity sort of level. But anyway, this was stuff that Sophie was working on before she died. Unfortunately, she fell from like a high window or something at a hotel, at some kind of party or something. Just sat in the wrong spot and lost her balance. So anyway, terrible accident. She's been sort of immortalized on Charlie's recent album Brat. She gets name checked a few times, and yeah, so this is sort of material that she's working on. There is a appearance by Kim Petras, pop star, Big Sister. There's a lot of Hannah Diamond, more kind of modern up and coming type artists on this record. And I believe Sophie's kind of critical album, the one about oil in the title, that is actually circulating again. That's been repressed finally. So anyway, it's a big week for Sophie fans. Another really, there's a lot of really interesting artsy bands out this week. Shoo, and this one featuring Jamie here. He's quite the auteur in a way. I love the album cover though. I think this is a really eye-catching. I wish more artists would come up with stuff that's really eye-catching like this. 13-inch Frank Beltrame Italian stiletto with bison horn grips. That's the name of the album. Let me say that again. 13-inch Frank Beltrame Italian stiletto with bison horn grips. Is it Frank Beltrame? I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm not sure who Frank is, but Shoo always pushes the boundaries of art rock and avant-garde and sort of typical, like, this is almost too far out for alternative music sometimes, but a lot of sort of like really, I don't know, it can be primal and soul searching, but also just, you know, very like, I never would have thought of that kind of music. I think Shoo, I would say to this point, they're most, I mean, Jamie and company have been making records off and on for 20 years now, maybe almost. I'd say his most sort of like well-known thing was probably when they covered the Twin Peaks soundtrack, maybe 10 years ago now. So that kind of gave them a little bit of like notoriety with what people might know. But anyway, so I got a lot of new artists I'm showing today. Drew Holcomb, and this is Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors, Strangers No More Volume 2. So this is more like folk Americana kind of stuff. But Drew's kind of getting a fan base going. His last album did pretty well. And one other from the past, really, that's sort of making a sort of appearance here. Common with Pete Rock. And it's called Auditorium Volume 1. So I'm assuming there's going to be more than one auditorium. It's the past, present, and future of hip-hop happening all at once. Indie record store exclusive, translucent forest green vinyl. So, Common with Pete Rock. Bilal is on here. Jennifer Hudson. Posness of De La Soul. So a few guest stars there. I was also hearing that the new LL Cool J was a good album, and we're actually out of it right now. I'm trying to get it back in, but there are guest appearances on that, quite a few from Q-Tip. So if you're into Tribe Called Quest, you might want to check that out. Maybe stream it first to see if you're interested, but supposedly it's very good. Took him 9 years to make it. Airborne Toxic Event. This actually was supposed to be out last week, and it came in a little late. Canadian band, right? Produced by Michael Jolette. 9 tracks. It's been a little while since I heard from them. They sort of had a breakthrough around the time that maybe Arcade Fire was 4 or 5 years into their career, and people were sort of like, oh, is Airborne Toxic Event going to be the next Arcade Fire? And then it didn't really happen necessarily. They just kind of kept quietly making records, and they seem to be okay with that. So, yes, you know, being in the spotlight and being a star, whatever, that's great. But when things go bad, everybody knows it on a grand scale, as we kind of saw with Arcade Fire, among other bands. But they're trying to pull it back together. So, all right, in the reissues this week, and I don't know, well, they're not all reissues. This is where things start getting a little bit more mixed, but this is the OJC Original Jazz Classic of the Week. Every couple of weeks or month we get one of these with the nice obi strip down the side. This one was cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, so taking a moonlighting job from his Blue Note stuff to do this. Mal Waldron with Eric Dolphy and Booker Ervin. It's called The Quest. And you don't see this record very often. And it features Ron Carter on cello, of all things, too. So that might be of interest to some jazz folk. Artists I really love, Horace Andy, one of the greatest reggae singers that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as, say, Bob Marley, with good reason. As Bob is like, you know, legend, obviously. And this features Jah Wobble, great bass player too. And it's called Timeless Roots. This is a color vinyl, yellow vinyl edition. I think that Cleopatra had some, yeah, Cleopatra. But produced by Jah Wobble and John Klein. And it's mostly cover songs done reggae style. Interesting though. Natty Dread, Skylarking, Superstition, Money Money, Ain't No Sunshine, One Love, Come Together, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Three Little Birds, Ooh Child, and Horse with No Name. And also interesting, he does Spyglass, which was a Massive Attack song that he sang originally with Massive Attack. So it's like a new version of it. All right, so Horace Andy, he still tours with Massive Attack too. If you are familiar with the Mezzanine album, the iconic Massive Attack Mezzanine album, Horace sings Angel, the first song on there. What a voice, I think. Soul Asylum, their new record, Slowly But Surely. And Shirley's spelled S-H-I-R-L-E-Y, as in Laverne and Shirley. Shirley Muldowney is the name on this car. There must be some story about her as a race car driver. Forgive me if I don't really know much about her. Maybe this is sort of about her. The songs are called High Road, Freak Accident, Waiting on the Lord. You know, there must be some sort of connection there. Obviously an homage to an Elvis cover with the writing and font there. Okay, and Bring Me the Horizon, their latest record. This is called Posthuman Next Gen, and they have their fan base for sure, sort of tied into a lot of this kind of anime type art. Yeah, they're an interesting band. Not somebody I've listened to a lot, but I have heard them. All right. Now I have a lot of reissues here. AC/DC, so earlier this month, or last month, they did 6 albums on gold vinyl, and now we get 6 more. And this one's really interesting. Live at River Plate, and this is a gold vinyl live edition for the 50th anniversary. Includes unique insert and custom labels. This features, let's see, Rock and Roll Train, Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, Back in Black, Big Jack, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Thunderstruck, Black Ice, Hell's Bells, You Shook Me All Night Long, Let There Be Rock, Highway to Hell, For Those About to Rock. It's sort of like a big greatest hits live on vinyl, triple. So that's kind of cool. And also they did the newest record, Power Up, on gold vinyl. includes unique insert. That was actually very well reviewed, and AC/DC fans really liked it. Let's see, also an album that was kind of a Walmart exclusive, I think, when it came out. So they've reissued this on gold vinyl, Black Ice. And this is a double record. Anyway, Black Ice is on gold vinyl. Some classics, Blow Up Your Mind, Fly on the Wall, and Flick of the Switch, all on gold vinyl. And it's kind of a, from the pictures they show, it seems like it's kind of that watery gold. So kind of cool looking, actually. A band that thankfully they keep putting these reissues out that people are really looking for. Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue. This is from the post-Lane era, but this album was very well received when it came out, mostly, and did very well for the most part. I mean, it didn't do as well of the records, say, on the Lane level, but yeah, I don't know why the earlier ones, they haven't completed doing some of the earlier records, but this actually was kind of a cool record in the sense that they got some really high-profile guests on here that were sort of outside the realm of what you consider Alice in Chains or like grunge. Piano on the title track was by Elton John. Vibraphone on the title track was by Lisa Coleman of Wendy and Lisa Prince fame. Let's see, there's also appearance by Chris Armstrong. Let's see. Anyway, Elton being on here was sort of a big deal, I think, at the time. Jerry Cantrell wrote everything, so it's basically like Jerry and the band. So if you're looking for Lane, don't look there, but people really want that. Popular band for good reason. George Harrison reissue of Cloud 9 featuring Got My Mind Set on You, his really, probably his biggest hit of the 80s. I mean, I know When We Was Fab is on here too, which is, I really think that's a great song and a great video. When that came out, I thought, oh, this is the right thing, George. But it's also kind of poppy. I think Jeff Lynne's influence producing this has sort of had a big, he and George and the Wilburys, they really, Jeff kind of put his ELO imprint, the sort of rockier side of it, over this stuff. Roy Orbison, he produced a lot of that stuff. So anyway, this is a very catchy record. It's a good record. I see it from time to time used, so it's not like they aren't out there, but this is a new remaster from the original analog stereo master tapes. So, and it's on Dark Horse Records because Dark Horse has been reignited. One of my favorite records of the 90s that was kind of a British pop record in the middle of all the Brit pop era, even though it technically wasn't Brit pop because it wasn't like about characters or something like that necessarily, but the Lightning Seeds and Dizzy Heights, featuring Ian Brody, great producer. He'd worked with like Echo and the Bunnymen and a bunch of other people. He started quite early with like kind of mega bands or bands that ended up being mega bands in the UK, and just kind of plowed his own path. But songs were like featured in things like Austin Powers. I think this You Showed Me is on here, his cover of that, which was maybe that was what was featured in Austin Powers, one of the movies. But this also features things like What If, Sugar Coated Iceberg, Ready or Not. Those were all singles, sort of big hits in the UK, Like You Do, Imaginary Friends, You Bet Your Life. Maybe not as like well known as like Blur and Oasis and stuff like that, but really good quality singer-songwriter, very well written and well produced. His voice is very light. It kind of reminds me of like Terry Hall of the Specials at points. I think they may have even worked together. If they didn't, they sound like they should have. But anyway, there are actually 4 Lightning Seeds records that just got reissued, including the first one that has Pure, was kind of their breakthrough hit in like 1990. So yeah, the first 4, I think they skipped Jollifications, but that's coming out on whatever the British National Album Day they have over there in October. Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. This is one of his most popular records on a double vinyl. 20th anniversary, clear vinyl. Yeah, it's actually, there's like 4 songs aside. I didn't realize that album had like 16 songs on it, but it says also features Back When, Drugs Are Jesus, and My Old Friends. So, but I don't know if there are any bonus tracks here. But anyway, Tim McGraw. If you're in the country thing, AFI and Sing the Sorrow. This was out, I think, maybe a couple years ago. And anyway, it's back out again. Produced by Jerry Finn and Butch Vig. Jerry, mega producer for Blink-182. Butch, from Nirvana to being a member of Garbage and producing that band. This is a very popular record featuring Girls Not Grey, 2 LP at 45 RPM. So I know it's 45, it's supposed to sound better. I think it probably does. Ray Charles, modern sounds in country and Western music. Gets a new reissue. This is on Tangerine Records. I don't know what that is, but it's the Grammy Hall of Fame recording that redefined American music, officially licensed, restored, and remastered by the Ray Charles Foundation. So can't be bad if the Ray Charles Foundation put their stamp on this. This one features Bye Bye Love, You Don't Know Me, Half As Much, Just a Little Lovin', with arranged by Gerald Wilson. Worried Mind, It Makes No Difference Now, You Win Again, Hey Good Lookin', among other stuff. That's a classic record. It's good to see that back. Another one that's great, Brandy Carlisle, 15th anniversary of Give Up the Ghost, if you can believe 15 years. Pressed on vinyl for the 15th anniversary, including Caroline, featuring Elton John, and more. So if you don't have this one, Brandy fans, now might be the time to pick that up. Go way back here to the 80s. Brittany Fox, look at that hair, man. The hair is awesome. Brittany Fox, limited edition of 1,000 individually numbered copies on red vinyl, featuring the single Long Way to Love. I feel like I've met one of these guys. I think this guy, actually, he lives in this area. I feel like he might have even been in the store. But yeah, so Brittany Fox, they were sort of in that like group of like Cinderella and all the sort of big hair bands of the late 80s that they sort of never really had a major breakthrough, but this album sold very well at the time. I think their first couple did pretty well, and then I don't know if they got dropped or what happened there, but anyway, and speaking of big hair, Slash, this album came out a few months ago. It's already being reissued on purple vinyl now. Orgy of the Damned, a collection of blues-inspired covers. It's been doing very well because Slash doesn't sing, but the people on here, Chris Robinson of Black Crowes, Gary Clark Jr., Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Chris Stapleton, Iggy Pop, Dorothy, Paul Rogers, Demi Lovato, Brian Johnson of AC/DC, Tash Neal, and Beth Hart. So a good list of singers there if you're doing blues, I suppose. And then Living Color Vivid. Well, this came out a couple months ago, a few months, I think, or maybe a year now, on Music on Vinyl, and now Sony has taken over putting it out, as they do. They love taking things away from Music on Vinyl, and while it is cheaper at $25 instead of the $37 or whatever Music on Vinyl is, it definitely feels thinner and more kind of flimsy than the Music on Vinyl one. So probably less care, but you know, I don't know. It's hard to say. Really hard to say. And then some CDs this week. Chicago. You got Live Chicago. New Daughtry. This is like part 1, Shock to the System. There's like 8 songs on there. I guess he's got another part coming. Hayes Carl, Flowers and Liquor. Let me know if you want the vinyl. I think it's out there. And Luke Bryan, Mind of a Country Boy, his new. And I don't know if I've seen the record on that yet either. So anyway, I was going to mention a couple of things here before I get to my recommend. One thing is they just announced official Stop the Presses, the new Cure album, definitely coming November 1st, called Songs of a Lost World. Very excited about that. Been waiting 16 years. So that's very, very exciting. The other thing is, like I mentioned, next week, October 4th, is Rocktober Part 1. And I feel like I need to mention some of the things that are coming out next week, just so you know. The Rhino sort of series that they've been doing of these sort of audiophile pressings. A lot of people missed out on the Black Sabbath one, the first one that was issued there. It's the first album. That is actually coming out as sort of an audiophile pressing next week. So that should be something people are looking for. Also, Devo, their album Freedom of Choice. And I believe there's also Monkey's Headquarters. Those 3 are part of the Rocktober thing that Rhino's doing. There are a bunch of bands that have 2 releases coming out next week for Rocktober. Those being Stone Temple Pilots, Ministry, and the Ministry ones, by the way, are Twitch and Land of Rape and Honey, and both are expanded 2 LP editions with extra tracks like remixes and extended versions and B-sides. Tony Iommi and Whitesnake both have reissues, not double albums, but albums from like the past. The Iommi one is an album that features Glenn Hughes, and one was like the DEP or the Depth Sessions. I don't know much about that, but I'm sure some of you know more. Whitesnake, there are 2 albums that Dave Coverdale, I call him David, sort of came up with back in the mid-70s, late 70s, and they've been remixed and redone and remastered. And so Typo Negative, 2 Typo Negative releases, Slow Deep and Hard and October Rust, are both being reissued as I think they're different color vinyl this time. In Excess, 2 albums, X and Full Moon Dirty Hearts. Both of those are pretty hard to get on vinyl, so those will be out. And then things from Jenny Lewis, Voyager. It's like a anniversary edition. Fleetwood Mac, Heroes Are Hard to Find. Twisted Sisters, Stay Hungry. It's like the 40th anniversary of that, and that has been expanded to 2 LPs with extra things added, different cover art, I think. Deep Purple and Machine Head gets a 2024 remix that was in their box set, but now it's coming out on vinyl. Stevie Nicks, an album that came out maybe like 10 years ago or so, called In Your Dreams, is finally getting released on vinyl. It's never been on vinyl. Wilco's Summer Teeth gets a new expanded or a new edition. Third Eye Blind's Blue, Morphine's Cure for Pain, Bush's Golden State, a couple of Stooges, or at least, no, I think there's just one Stooges record, right? Yeah, Stooges, the John Cale mix of that album. There's a couple of foreigners coming next week. Yeah, not the kind of foreigners that you need to take out of the country. One is Head Games. That's part of Rocktober. And then the other is a Greatest Hits album. That's not part of Rocktober, but they're coming out at the same time. Same record company, I think. Doobie Brothers have 2 reissues coming out. Montrose and Ron Wood. That is all next week as part of Rocktober. Then, on top of that, you get regular releases. So we get the new album from The Smile, the second album this year from the guys from Radiohead, Tom and Johnny. Jimi Hendrix, his new box set, Electric Lady, stuff that he was working on right at the end of his life. Joni Mitchell, the box set around the Hejira period, and this is the one that features all of the extra tracks, things that were not on the albums. Neil Young has 4 reissues coming next week. They are Arc, Weld, Ragged Glory, and Freedom. Coldplay have their new album, Moon Music, I think. Lady Gaga is releasing a new record tomorrow, supposedly called Harlequin, that's tied into the character from the Batman movie, but I haven't seen. I think hopefully today or soon there will be like a, hey, order this vinyl sort of thing pop up, because we don't have that yet. But next week is the soundtrack for Joker, featuring her and people like Joaquin Phoenix and other people. So that's next week. Leon Bridges' new album is next week. 4 new Peter Gabriel reissues of the first 4 albums, all on color vinyl, up through Security. And I believe So is coming again. We're getting the black vinyl on that, but that'll be available. New Godspeed You Black Emperor album. New Motley Crue EP, Phineas, Billie Eilish's brother, his album, New Caribou, Aphex Twin, Select Ambient Works Volume 2, the reissue of that with unreleased material on vinyl is coming. 2 Tone Poets next week from Donald Byrd and Booker Little. Jeff Healey's unreleased music from the Roadhouse soundtrack from the 80s. We also get a Chet Baker Verve by Request and a Howard McGee Contemporary Sessions, and Pete Townsend, a CD box set. Another reissue from Don Henley, the album that had Boys of Summer on it is expanded. And one that I'm really looking forward to, if you don't know the guy, Jordy Greep, he's the lead singer of a band named Black Midi. And Black Midi is like been a crazy sort of cool band. You know, I listen to Black Midi records and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. How do they keep it all together? This is probably a more sort of accessible sounding thing, but he's stepped out from the band and is going solo. And I think that he says the band is over, but we shall see. Okay, my recommend this week. This is a very personal, sentimental recommend because it's the first gift that my wife ever gave me. And it was when we met, and neither of us had ever heard this album, but she saw it on this shelf, loved the artwork, was like, oh, he needs this. And we were just dating at the time, kids. And it's B-52s, and the album is called Bouncing Off the Satellites. Now, this is not the early B-52. I mean, it is from the early era. This was 1985. And B-52s had been through a lot by this point already. Their first 2 albums, the Rock Lobster, Quiche Lorraine era, had been a major breakthrough for them. And by the time they got to Whammy, they'd already sort of worked a little with David Byrne, and those sessions didn't really on Mesopotamia, those didn't really do exactly what they wanted. So Whammy was more sort of stripped down in a way because they sort of got a drum machine and started working a little bit more sort of trying to kind of build the sounds from more of a synthesizer, kind of futuristic mixing with the kind of interesting twangy guitar that Ricky and now Keith was playing a little guitar too, were bringing to Proceedings. Well, by the time they got to this album, it was the mid-80s. Ricky Wilson had been diagnosed with AIDS and HIV and had passed away from AIDS a month before this album was, or a month after it was finished. So apparently Ricky did play the entire album from what's been said. I don't know how much work they did on it after, but it's, unfortunately, when it came out, it was sort of criticized for being too synthesizer heavy, too like clean and too produced. And it did sound totally different. It was like the B-52s were going for a different aesthetic, but the heart of the quirkiness and the songs were still kind of there. And it was produced by Tony Mansfield. So he used his, I don't know if it was a Fairlight, I believe, Synclavier or something like that. And the whole album featured much more heavily produced kind of pop sounds. But I always liked the songs on this record. It starts with Summer of Love, which was just a fun, summery song. And they did it again on side 2, the first song there, the one that's called A Theme for a Nude Beach. Hysterical lyrics and, you know, just kind of like fun. They always brought the fun. Detour Through Your Mind is a good chance for Fred to get weird. Wig is probably the most wacky song on the record, and it's such a great, like, catchy, when they start chanting wigs on fire, it's just so much fun. But some of my favorite songs on this record are the ones that the women sing solo, which sort of kind of alludes to what would happen with Cosmic Thing, the big breakthrough 4 years later when Love Shack came out and they went mega huge. Rome was a song that just featured the two ladies and Fred didn't sing. But not that I don't like Fred's voice, but I think they're nice showcases for... I think the women are totally underrated vocally. Cindy Wilson and Kate Pearson, incredible voices, and when they sing together, like on Rome, they're amazing. But even solo, I think each one of them does great on here. Yeah, I've heard some new solo work from them. It's okay. I'm a little less excited about it, but I did love their songs on this. Housework in particular is one of the greatest things that Kate ever sang. It's sort of a female empowerment song. I'm tired of this housework. I need a man to help soon. Don't need a man to make a move on me. I need a man who'll move in with me. I mean, it's just hysterical. Don't need a man to treat me mean. I need a man to help me clean. Just hysterical. And a catchy little song. The other songs on here, the ones that Cindy sings, oh my God. Well, Girl from Ipanema Goes to Greenland. Does she really sing those notes? It's amazing. I don't know what sort of help came from the sampler on that, if she sang that live, but auto-tune, what an amazing vocal on that song. And I just love the tone of both of their voices. Kate's is very kind of gutsy and punchy, and Cindy's has got this like airy, breathy tone to it that is just like perfect for those songs. The other ones that Cindy sings that I love, Ain't It a Shame, which is such a good song, and so good that Sinead O'Connor covered it later as a rockier version. But that song is very it's about like a relationship that's breaking up. Our love is like a fire that's burned out. It was just a great line from that song. And it's very kind of a sad song. And then the last song on the record, She Breaks for Rainbows, is kind of, maybe to some people it's a little bit of a throwaway, a song about Brenda Holiday and but it's kind of a follow your bliss type song, or find your bliss, which they would sort of use that later. But it's a very sweet song. And I think after Ricky's passing, they needed some kind of sweet, uplifting music. So Juicy Jungle and Communicate are much more sort of typical B-52s fare, where Fred gets sort of into the mix, and songs about the environment. I mean, there were a lot of topics that they covered in sort of like, they would present them in maybe kind of humorous ways, but they were actually serious issues that when you got down below the humor, you realize like this is kind of like motivating, and so I don't know. I give B-52s a lot of credit. They didn't tour this album. There was really no way for them to reproduce this musically on a stage. and it was more of a tribute to Ricky, and it was unfortunately kind of a bump in their career, I think, commercially, because it did not do well. But it is a very good album, and critics were so mean to it at the time. I don't know if, you know, that's what they had in their mind, that Ricky should have gone out on a different note or something, but that's what he wanted to do, apparently, or that's what they'd sort of agreed upon. So, you know, he's trying to push himself a little bit into different things. And if he was that ill, it might have been difficult to play much more heavy guitar than that. So, I don't know. Anyway, I love that record. I love all the B-52s records, at least up until, well, I don't know, Good Stuff is okay, and then after that, a Funplex, isn't it? Wish they'd do something else, but they're getting up there and retiring from touring. And anyway, my recommend for the week, B-52s, Bouncing Off the Satellites. If you can find it, it's not being reissued. Someone sold this back used. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate you viewing me another 45-minute video. See you next week. Next week might even be longer because there's more releases. Ugh. It's too much. Too much at once. All right, take care. Have a good weekend.